Would you like to live your best life possible, regardless of your imperfections? Discover cutting-edge tools and inspiration to let go of your limitations and expand your life beyond what you've ever imagined. On Imperfect Brilliance, we help you tap into your unique gifts and talents, uncovering and letting your brilliance shine. Join certified facilitator and coach Betsy McLaughlin as she delves into different areas of your life to get unstuck and create the life that is truly possible for you. Betsy has changed her life by utilizing the tools and techniques she is sharing with you. What if your willingness to acknowledge your brilliance is the catalyst to creating a new reality? When you stop judging you, what else can you create in your life and in the world? Join Betsy live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern to create magical and joyous possibilities for an hour of laughs, questions, tips, and more. We are excited to contribute and play with you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to Imperfect Brilliance. I am your host, Betsy McLaughlin, and I am thrilled and happy and excited to to welcome my guest today, Katherine McIntosh. So first of all, welcome, Katherine.
Yay! Thank you. I'm a little giddy today.
I know, me too, and I am so grateful for you coming on and playing with me. Katherine is one of my favorite people in the world, and I really enjoy creating with her, and I told her she's actually been on my radio show quite a few times, and we always have so much fun together. And today, so I'll tell you guys a little bit about our show today and then about Katherine as well, and then we'll dive in. So the topic and the name of the show today is The Art of Letting Go. And that in itself is like, whoa, wait, what? Let go? So what if really true creation was based on being present and being present with the unknown? And what if you could ask a question in the now and follow your gut, follow your instinct, trust what you know, and trust what you think now, and not what you thought yesterday or the last week or last year, last century. What do you know now? And so Katherine, she says in part of the description, it's how many times she's gone to create a class, a future possibility, a relationship, a business idea, or a book even, and you can fill in the blanks of things that you guys might have done where you're looking to create something based on what worked in the past and functioning from whatever you saw was a success and those patterns, and then expecting either something similar or even better from using that worked in the past. And what she's come to find out, and I know we'll dive deep into this today, is that true creation doesn't work that way. And true creation is the willingness to not know, to not control, to not project, and truly to create from what is possible. And with that, there's a big unknown. Whew. So if you're going to create a future that does not yet exist, you cannot base it on past reference points. Key point there. So the art of letting go is a window into all the possibilities you may be missing out on if you've decided you need to know what to do before you do it. Juicy topic, and I bet you we could talk about this for, a couple of months every day. And
I'm like, or we could just stop there.
Right?
Yeah, because it's such a cool topic.
It really, really is. And so a little bit about Katherine, in case you don't know.
Oh, they don't need to hear about me.
Sure they do. Of course they do. So Catherine is an Access Consciousness certified facilitator. Easy for me to say, facilitator. She's a mom of a really amazing, brilliant guy. And how old is he now?
He just turned 7 last week.
7. Okay, I didn't know if it was 7 or 8. I knew it was somewhere in there. And he's just a brilliant kid. Adorable. She's also a sunshine seeker, a world traveler, a mountain biking junkie, and a rebel in every sense of the word. Woohoo! And she's also the founder and CEO of the No Judgment Diet. And her mission is to invite 10 million plus people out of judgment with their bodies. And life is too short to judge you in any way. And we've got a planet to explore and consciousness to play with. And so when you're doing judgment, you're cutting off the magic of you everywhere you go. So that's a little bit about Katherine and what we're going to talk about today. So once again, welcome to the show, Katherine.
Oh, thank you so much, Betsy. I just am so grateful for you and love being on here.
Thank you. So the art of letting go. How about if you start a little bit of this conversation with the journey that you've had about where you started to let go and how that changed things in your life?
Well, I think, Betsy, I'm still freaking letting go. Like it's not like there's no, like, really truly there's no end point. You know, I've been a certified facilitator. I've been running my own businesses and self-employed for almost 20 years. And, you know, every time I get to this level of success in every business, I notice in my own system and in my own psyche, in my own, you know, I'll call it my turd mind, where I go into this pile of poo and I try to, like, open up my, like, tricks of the past. And because, like, it's like I get to this place where I know so much more is possible. I know that there's a world to explore. I know that every single one of us is magic. I know I'm magic. I know the business is magic. And yet there's like this place where, oh, well, if I'm going to be magic, then I better go back into my bag of tricks to see what worked in the past, to see if I can really prove if I'm getting it right. And I cannot tell you, Betsy, how many times I've done that, especially in, you know, as an Access Consciousness certified facilitator. Like, oh my gosh, I had 100 people in a class. Like, how do I recreate that? And then it's just like piles of poo everywhere I go. And especially with myself, it gets a little stinky. It's like, okay, this actually isn't working, because if true creation is the art, literally, of letting go, of having no frame of reference points. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not even saying I have the answer. I just know, like, I watch Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and he literally will create miracles from this place of he's literally asking a question and his response is yes or no. We're in or we're out. But he's not like, well, it worked last time, so let's try that again. He literally is like, just, is it going to create more? Yes or no? And sometimes he'll say yes, and it creates more, but not in the way you think. And I know that's probably been true for you in your life. It's definitely been true for me in my life, where I'm like, yes, it's light. And then the lightness is like tons of awareness and information, not necessarily the success of a class or a call or whatever that is.
For sure. And when that happens, how do you stay out of making yourself wrong? Because it was exciting to create and everything seemed like it was a go and a yes to do it. And then if it doesn't, whatever it is, it doesn't have to just be a class, but whatever the creation is, and then if it doesn't happen the way that you think it will, how do you keep yourself out of making yourself wrong or stupid, or however you may choose to speak to yourself in those in that time, how do you keep yourself out of doing that?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. I don't know if I have a like quote unquote right answer or even an answer, but no, like honestly, what do I do is I honestly think there's so many, I mean, if when my book comes out, there's story after story after story of blunder and fuck up and and mess up and everything, of all of these things. And I just like dust myself off and I keep going. And I always just thought that was normal.
Mhm.
Right. So I have a pretty high threshold and tolerance for screwing up. But when I do screw up and I want to judge myself for it, the place where I judge myself the most is when I make a choice and it feels really light. Notice I'm saying feels light. I didn't say is light. Feels light, right? And it feels light or it feels expansive, and then my bank account gets wonky. That's where I go into judgment. And so the first thing that I do is one of the tools from Access is, well, what's right about me I'm not getting? What's right about this I'm not getting? And what gift is this to the future that I haven't been willing to acknowledge? And so there's been so many times where I've traveled around the world and I've created a class and it's like, it's light, it's light, it's light. And all these people sign up. Like I remember a couple of years ago, long time, actually, maybe more than 4 years ago, I created a class in Chicago and it was light and it was light and it was light. And then like a few days before it started to get weird. And a few days before it started to get wonky. And there were 4 people definitely coming, but like we thought there would be 20. And so the night before, I'm about to do a taster, and the entire city of Chicago shuts down. Lights are out, power's out, there's a tornado. So I showed up anyway to this class, and nobody came because the city was like, the only people that were there were my hosts. And I remember looking at that and going, what's right about this? Like, where was the information that I was so invested in the end goal, and that I forgot to see all the energy that was that was playing with me this entire time. And there was no right or wrong in it. Yeah. I wouldn't have changed going. I would have gone anyway, but I learned a lot of information about my awareness and where I function from in that experience.
Wow. There's so much information in what you gave. It's just there. Like it wouldn't have changed what you still would have gone. So what would have changed for you if you had tapped more into what you were aware of? But
that's a really good question. Looking back at it, I mean, I look at well, I wouldn't have changed anything, right? Because that's part of the art of letting go. Awesome. Part of what we do is we have an experience and then we ruminate and then we pick it apart and then we analyze it, and all of a sudden we've lost a day, a week, a month of future possibilities and future creations because we were ruminating on something that already happened.
What a beautiful point here. So, if you're spending time in the past, are you actually being present?
Yeah, it was more just well, what did I get to experience? And so I'm an experiential junkie. It's just how I've always been built. I love experiences. And so people look at my life and they're like, wow, she's kind of a walking disaster. And I look at my life and go, well, I've had a pretty cool, amazing life. And now I'm at a point in my life where I would like a little bit less of those disasters and a little bit more of the joy of the possibility. And so it is a fine line. I just actually recently canceled a class and I got a lot of grief for it. And this is probably the third time I was going to Hungary. It was on for 9 months. We're planning it. And then things started to go south. And so I look at a class, and I've recently gotten this aha a class for me is an ongoing relationship. And so I'm invested in that relationship through the end. But if that relationship starts to get wonky, then I need to start to ask questions like, well, and sit down with that relationship and go, what do you require from me? And so I got a few interesting exchanges with the host, and they kept going, well, we're not really sure. We don't really know. Are you still coming? I was like, I was never not coming, but you keep asking me every day if I'm still coming.
Right.
I'm not going to come.
Right.
So the relationship started to be a one-way street, and it no longer worked. And so now based on what happened in Chicago, based on what's happened in a lot of classes all over the world, like I've screwed up a lot of my classes. Even the class with 100 people in it, I screwed that class up royally. In a lot of, like, it's not a story I'll go into today, but like I use every screw up is, okay, now what do I want to choose? So for the first time in my entire life, 3 weeks before a class, I said, I'm sorry, I'm not coming. And they were really, really upset. And I had to look at it and go, is this going to create a greater future? I so wanted to go, Betsy, but something inside of my gut was like, Katherine, this is a bigger picture for you taking a stand for not putting yourself in really scary, not scary, but like it's not fun to fly to Europe and just make ends meet. It's not fun to not have enough money to pay my hosts and have it to come out of my pocket. Like that's not fun for me. So it was just like, if it's not going to be fun, I'm not going to choose it.
Well, and there's a lot in that, where you're actually willing to make a choice that might not be the most popular choice, and yet it's something that works for you. So it's already time for our first break. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Thanks for listening.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I liked kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm going to return the kayak.
Can we walk home?
How about a taxi?
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
You guys are listening to Imperfect Brilliance. Thank you so much for tuning in. And my guest today is Katherine McIntosh, and we are talking about the art of letting go. And right as we were going to break, Katherine shared that she made a decision to cancel a class that was, across the world for her and a big expense 3 weeks before the class was slated to go. And it wasn't necessarily it certainly wasn't an easy choice and not a popular choice. And yet, as she was following the energy, it was what she decided to do. And in that, that is part of the art of letting go, isn't it, Katherine?
Yeah, and it's so interesting because if we look at the bigger picture of what we truly desire to have and create, then every choice is just a choice, and it's really looking at, will this choice create a greater future or not a greater future? Mm. And sometimes there's like the thing that I think we get tripped up on is that there's no right answer. Mm-hmm. And especially when we're looking for the right answer, we then have to judge ourselves every step of the way, which keeps us like in the past, in conclusion, indecision, in unawareness. And sometimes, like I was listening to an audio recently, and I don't remember, it was like some decision. I'm terrible at history. I'm terrible at wars. But some decision some general made, like they had been on the fence about the decision for 5 years. The general went in, listened to, a conference with a whole bunch of people giving their side of the story. And at the end of that 45 minutes, he said, we're going to choose that one. And this guy who was interviewing him walked out with him and said, how the heck could you choose like the fate of a country in 45 minutes? He's like, well, I had to decide and I went with my gut. And here's the good thing. We're going to know really quickly whether or not it's a choice that's going to create greater or a choice that's not. And at least we can steer the course along the path. But sitting on the fence for another 5 years isn't going to do anyone any good.
Mm. So would you talk a bit more about what sitting on the fence can create in your life? Just a bit more.
A very uncomfortable wedgie. A really bad blister. Well, so if you look at it, right, like most people at the end of their lives, they regret not choosing. They regret not doing. They regret not experiencing. And so sitting on the fence, I think, is the greatest way to create death and to create not living and to create not having fun and to create not laughing at the like blunders and the mess ups along the way.
Yeah.
And so it's like sitting on the fence is this art, right? Well, I don't really want to call it an art, but some of may look at it as an art, this art of waiting. And I don't know about you, but waiting, it's no fun to wait for things or to make yourself like say, oh, well, I'll do that next year. I'll do that next month. I'll do that when I have enough money in my bank account. Like if Gary Douglas waited to choose for things, if he had enough money on his bank account, access would not exist in the way that it does.
That's true.
Gary and the genius that Gary has shown all of us that have wanted to learn from him, that have watched him choose and create, he will say yes to something long before he has the money for it.
And it's that willingness to, like you've already talked about today, it's that willingness to follow the energy, listen to your, like there's a lot of different ways to say this, but, listen to your gut, just know what you actually know, be willing to get off of that fence where you might have plopped yourself for a while. And it doesn't matter, like whether you've been there for a second or 5 years, it doesn't matter. If you don't make yourself wrong and you don't judge yourself for whatever you've chosen or not chosen, and you're willing to really be present with what you know, that can, for me, also can help get you off of indecision.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing that I've learned, and I learned this a long time ago, is you can study and learn and get all the knowledge you want to gather and prepare all you want to prepare, but when the experience of it it creates a forward momentum that opens doors, that invites possibility, right? Like I studied Spanish for 8 years. I took Spanish, and I also had Spanish since I was actually 13 years old. And so I was pretty well versed in Spanish. And at the age of 23, I flew to South America, Quito, Ecuador, and unpacked my bags for an entire year. And when I first landed in Quito, Ecuador, I had 8 years. I had hanging out with chefs in kitchens when I was a waitress in college. Like I spoke some Spanish. I knew but when I went to Ecuador and I plunked myself in the middle of a foreign country with a foreign language, I was the only white girl for miles around and nobody spoke English. That's a different experience. And I could not speak. It took me, to even feel comfortable took me 3-4 months.
I bet.
Carrying on a conversation, 6 months, and then fluent took about a year to a year and a half.
Wow. And that's, talk about, being willing to dive and just create something that has never been created before in your life, in your world, and that willingness to jump, says a lot. And to have that immersion of no language around you, that nobody's speaking the same language that you're used to speaking 24/7. So that must have been quite an experience.
Well, and here's the other piece, no one can help you if you don't put yourself out there. So by me putting myself out there, all these people are they were speaking Spanish and they would speak slowly and they would try to contribute to me. So I learned because people were willing to also contribute to me along the way. And so when you're sitting on the fence, the art of letting go is also, oh my gosh, I have to let go of being the control freak that tries to get it right and do it all by myself in the corner, while also then getting frustrated, feeling lonely. The art of letting go is also the willingness to allow the universe and everyone and anything around you to contribute to you putting yourself out there or getting what you want or asking for what you desire.
Wow. So being willing to receive from people, being willing to let go of having to know the outcome, to be the control freak, and that, again, this willingness to jump where maybe you can't see where you're landing. And we talk a lot on the show, about questions and tools and things that we can, that could contribute to somebody. So if there's people listening, Katherine, who are looking to do something and they're listening to this conversation and going, okay, this is great. What questions can I ask here that could contribute to what they're looking to choose?
Yeah, well, it's what choice lights you up? Which one makes you uncomfortable? Which one is a little risky? And which one is oh my gosh, with every fiber of my being, I have to, right? So I look at the no judgment diet. And if somebody came to me today and said, I will pay you $10 million for the no judgment diet, I would say no.
Wow.
Because I actually desire to be the creator of it, with it, for it, to create what I know is possible for the planet. Now, I might die without $10 million. Who cares?
Right.
I might die with $100 million. Who cares? I'm going to be dead and I won't be able to enjoy it. But hopefully, the fruits of the labor can pass on. But money is not what passes on with you. What passes on with you is what you gift to the world as a possibility that wasn't previously available.
Yes.
And so if you create something, yeah, exactly. Go for it.
I was just going to say, and that's just that's the inspiration that, we truly are in the world. And that's what we're inspired that others, when we see others creating it.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. When you create something, you also have to let go of what it wants to look like in the world in order for it to exist as a possibility, which I don't know about you, Betsy, but that has been one of my hardest lessons, because I am a control freak and I like to have things go the way I want them to go. And so, I will, you have to sometimes, if you're the no judgment diet is now a much bigger thing than me. And so I have to let go. And I watch people, when I started the no judgment diet 4 years ago, yes, people were talking about judgment, but now there's so much of people just talking about body love and loving the skin. And look, they were doing it long before Access, but when we put something out to the world, Access is catching on everywhere. Dane and Gary happen to be the creators of it, but they've had to let go in how it's spread out to the world.
Right. That's a great example. Excuse me. That's a great example, really, of so many different things that if you're willing to let go, get out of the way, allow others to contribute, and allow them to fall and stumble and create beautifully and brilliantly and come up with ideas that you never would have thought of, and all of those things, and you put it all together in this beautiful collaboration that really is your life of everything that you do, and translate that into also your businesses and your creations and all of it, it becomes this beautiful, messy, brilliant creation that is ongoing, and it's not something that ever stops. It keeps evolving and exponentializing and getting greater.
Ding. Ding. And part of this too is are you willing to let go so that it can most of us try and control it because we're afraid that if we don't control it, it will show up less than.
Yeah.
And actually, the opposite happens. The more you control, the more it shows up as less than. Right? The less you try to control something, the more it can create beyond your wildest expectation. Right? It's like a first date. If any of you have had a first date where the guy's trying to control or the girl's trying to control the date, that date's not going to go over so well. But some of the first dates, or when you're dating someone in the beginning and you have that experience of a day where you're just wow, that was the most magical day with you. It's because you're following the energy and just going with the flow and letting go. Seeing where the wind takes you.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. And I think about some fun rides where you get in the car and you don't have a destination. You're just let's just see. And you get this hit to go, turn left down this road, turn right down this road. And next thing you know, you're in, in front of a beautiful meadow or a park or something. And you're wow. And that's all from just following the energy and being willing to play and having absolutely no idea where you're going to end up.
Bam.
so much fun. Oh my gosh. I'm loving this conversation, Katherine, about the art of letting go. And we do have a couple minutes before the next break. And before we go to break, I would love for you to tell people, and then we'll continue talking about it when we come back. You do have a new program that you're starting soon, and I'm super excited about it myself. So can you tell people about it?
Oh my God!
Yay!
So, well, and this is part of, like, I've really had to look at this topic, the art of letting go, because one of the things we're doing is for 365 days, we are literally waking up, and for 5 to 15 minutes, 8:30 every day Mountain Standard Time. You don't need to, like, for those that can show live, you show up live, but we're literally letting go of everything we thought we needed to know about everything. About relationship, about creation, about business, about money, about finances. And, you know, I started doing this myself 6 months ago. And about 4 months ago, I was like, everything in my life is changing except for business. What the heck? And it's not that it wasn't changing. I just knew there was like something that really needed to like blow the lid off. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if I did this for a year for myself and I invited the world to join? And we're doing it, Betsy, dare I say, for $1 a day.
Crazy.
We were going to charge $1,200 for the year for the basic. And yeah, so I'm so excited because really, truly, it's about letting go and seeing what you can create from the now, not from the yesterday.
Wow. 365 days of that, and I wonder what that will create. Here's our second break. Perfect timing. We'll be back shortly.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living, a chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me, and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Thank you all so much for tuning into Imperfect Brilliance. And just a little bit of information about if you're looking to find out more about me, my website is creatingyumminess.com, and my email address is accessbetsy@gmail. And you're welcome to email me. You can find me on Facebook as well. And Katherine, how can people find you?
Oh my goodness. Probably the best way is to go to the No Judgment Diet on Facebook. You can get all the information, the stuff we talked about today. Yeah. And if they're not on Facebook, KatherineMcIntosh.com.
And it's Katherine with a K.
Oh, baby.
So 365 days of really tapping into letting go of what you think you need to know and creating from what you know now. I wonder what your life would look like in a year from now. The program starts November 1st, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. And so I wonder what your life would look like a year from now if you actually were willing to commit to something like this, where you're practicing with these tools every single day. And what, you tap into the energy of that, what's possible for you from this. And I'm personally super excited about doing this. And it's, there's a time where you join a program, and then I've found for myself, sometimes I kind of start fading away. Other times I'm like there the whole time. And I know for myself personally, when I'm there and I'm in the program, whatever it is, the class, and I'm present with it, what changes for me is magical. And it's beyond anything that I could even tell you ahead of time that those changes would happen. But where you can go and what you can create, magic. And especially when you're doing it with, there's something extra about joining with a group of people and all playing together in the creation of that, whatever that is, That makes sense?
Yeah. You're asking me?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I honestly, Betsy, usually when I create a class, it starts working on me the minute I start creating it.
True story.
This class has been really working on me, like no other, because what I've started to look at is like, oh my gosh, how much have I created my life based on conclusion, based on projection, based on the need to have a result, based on proving, and it's like, oh my gosh, like my life works best when I just show up and say yes to the party. And yes, I have like a clear pathway, but my life does not work so good when I try to function in the way that I was told to function. Like, to have a successful business, you need to like map it out and put, like, I was really good in the beginning of being a facilitator, and I'm not saying I'm not now, but I tried to recreate success based on other people's points of views. And, this journey is like, wow, there's a lot of letting go to be done. And also on the flip side, a lot of creation from just for the joy of it. Like, I love creating. I probably am one of the fastest creators I know, right? I can come up with a title, a class, a name. I can come out with the 10-week plan or the year-long plan. And it's like faster than most people. And my team used to actually ask me to slow down. And then I bought that, right? Rather than, who else do I need to add to the team so I can keep going, right? And so what I look at is, in this year-long experience, it's like, not just what are you letting go of, but what are you going to be creating and being present for and say yes to, that you might not have previously said yes to, as a result of, like, oh my God, I'm in. So I know for me, I'm like, oh, I have no idea what a year from now is going to look like, but I know that it's going to be different than it is now.
And whatever you choose in your life, are you willing to actually follow the awareness of things that will show up and let go of, as Katherine has mentioned, let go of your conclusions, let go of your expectations of what you think it's going to look like, and actually allow it to show up. And the words you use that I love is you showed up to the party, you know, and you didn't necessarily have to do every single piece to create the party, but you showed up. And there's actually so much in that, Katherine. So what questions can you ask when you're looking at what you would like to choose? And I know that there's a lot of questions you could ask, but what are maybe one or two that kind of pop as I ask you that question?
Well, what if it was like, wow, if I was at a party, right? Like so many of us, we look at life as like, oh my God, I got to do life. But if you looked at life as showing up for your own party, someone asks you to do something that isn't fun at your own party and like it's your party, you're like, heck no, no thanks. Thanks for asking. Right? It's my party. I'll cry if I want to. So like your life can be like a party, but what is your point of view of what you think you need to accomplish that you keep making your life serious? Like, and if you didn't need to accomplish anything, what would you create?
Oh, I love that question.
Right? If you didn't need to create money, what would you choose? If money was taken care of in your life, like I would say for those of you making whatever area of your life wrong, whether it's money, relationship, finances, business, it's like, okay, if I'm making money wrong, okay, if money was never an issue, what would I like to choose?
Mic drop.
Right. Like, and so many of us, like, I mean, you know, we talked about Gary earlier saying yes before the money shows up. I've also seen Gary say no to things when he did have the money. Right. And so this is your party. You got one life to live. You got one body to enjoy it in. So what adventure are you going to create? And are you going to spend your time worrying about your past mistakes? Or are you just going to be like, you know, I remember probably 10 years ago, someone asked me like, well, what are your regrets, Katherine? And I looked at them and I was like, and I had gone through an awful divorce, an abusive marriage. I ended up in the hospital. I almost died. Like I had been through the ringer. And I looked straight in their face and I was like, I don't have one single regret. And they were like, what? I was like, nope. Because if I had a regret, that means that I would have to not like something about who I am today. And every choice, screwed up or not, you know, bad choice or not, those choices created me as the being I am now, and I wouldn't change that.
And I wonder what it would create for all of us to truly live our lives from the space of no regret. And you know, yes, that. And I know for me, it's like everything I've done, everything I've created has led me to where I am today. The good, the bad, the everything. And it's made me the person I am today. So I wonder what else we could choose and what we can create when we're not making ourselves wrong, when we're not judging ourselves, and we really, truly are practicing that art of letting go.
Well, that, like, you just blew my mind, right? Because, like, that's the place where, like, what's actually possible if we were willing to play from that place.
Yes. And again, it keeps kind of looping in here. It's that willingness to let go of control and that willingness to, I sometimes liken what I'm going to say next to when a child is first learning to walk, and they stumble and they fall and they may hit their head, or, they may laugh, they may, whatever that happens, but they just get up and they do it again. And they're not judging themselves that they fell down, it's just, they keep going, and that's their learning. And what if life really is that journey, and we're constantly learning and playing, and as Katherine said before, playing in the party of your life. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, I really desire to have way more fun, and I definitely had a period in my life where I was very serious all the time, and that's really not so much fun.
Right.
Yes, please. So way more fun, way more joy, way more laughter, and creation and playmates and all of it.
Amen. And I think if we were willing to truly let go of what other people think, let go of our own judgments, let go of the fear of what if I make a fool of myself, or what if I fail, or what if I get it wrong? It's like gosh, life is too short, because that takes a whole lot of energy that honestly I don't think any of us really have time for anymore.
Yes. And it really does take a lot of energy to focus on those things. And what would you like to create with your life? And I'm looking at Katherine's website right now, where the NoJudgmentDiet.com, where she's talking about this program. And towards the bottom of the page, she says, again, a year from now, she desires to look back and know that she's created her life as unrecognizable. And I was like, oh yes, that. And that's you've got to be willing to let go to create a life that is unrecognizable to you or anyone else. And that piece where you just talked about with the no judgment.
Oh, baby. And it's if you look at it, you guys are listening, it's like if somebody were to hand you $10 million and say, look, do you actually need to take your broken chair that you've been hanging on to for 10 years because your grandma gave it to you and she's no longer living? Like if you were given $100 million to literally create your life, are you going to take anything in your past that isn't working? Are you going to take it with you? We say no, but unfortunately the reality is oh my God, am I really willing to let go to have this unrecognizable adventure? And not everyone wants an unrecognizable life, but we do want different.
And so where can you create different in your life, and what questions can you ask, and where, follow the energy, follow that yellow brick road of wherever it takes you, and being willing to. And if, there's anything about this program that appeals to you, 365 days of 5-10 minutes. And if you can't come live, there'll be, replays. And what else do you have created for it, Katherine? You're going to have a Facebook group and
actually a membership. We're kind of going all out. So you're going to have unlimited access to this in an organized way. Because we know after a year of a Facebook video every day, it gets a little overwhelming. We're actually creating a membership where you will have instant, easy access. Knowing me, I'll probably drop in prizes and fun stuff throughout the year, and who knows what else. So
and you're going to talk about all areas of life. business,
Everything.
relationships, bodies, money, food, creation, everything, right?
Everything. We might even talk about the taboo topics.
Uh-oh.
I
love it. Wow.
Or oh yeah.
How does it get even funner and yummier and juicier than this? And, whatever you guys choose in your life, how much fun can you have with whatever you're choosing?
Amen. Betsy, you're such a gift. I'm so grateful that you had me on today. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Catherine. Truly. And again, for anybody looking for Katherine, it's Katherine McIntosh with a K. And you can find her on NoJudgmentDiet.com. You can find her on Facebook. If for some reason you can't find her, you can always message me and I'll put you guys in touch. Thank you so much, Katherine. Awesome. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for listening to Imperfect Brilliance.